This meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. Monday, August 7th, 2017. This meeting is being recorded. We have two selectmen present at the meeting, myself and Barbara Guelcher, and Selectman Curtis Hopkins is joining us from Fort Dix, New Jersey. How are you, Curtis?
Not too bad, thank you.
Okay, move that we accept the minutes of last week's meeting, July 31st, as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes of last week's meeting are accepted. We have some announcements to make. Got a bunch of them here for the coming week. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., the Joint Loss Management Committee will meet here at the Town Hall, and then following a short session here, we'll move to the Railroad Depot and Kimball Hall to inspect them for safety issues. At 7 o'clock Tuesday night, the school board will meet in the library at the high school. Wednesday, at 5 o'clock at the library, the annual ice cream social. On Thursday, 6:30 p.m. in this office, the Troy Festivals Committee will meet. On Saturday, at 7 a.m., the fire department breakfast at the firehouse. And on Sunday, Carnival Day, and I'm sure more information on Carnival Day will be available on the Recreation Committee's Facebook page. Okay, I have one more announcement to make. Our library director, Stephanie Charlefort, will be leaving us very soon. She has accepted a position as director of all of the libraries for the Monadnock Regional School District. So we've already begun looking for a new director. The job has been posted on the New England Library Listserv, which is an online thing read by all library professionals throughout New England and other parts of the country. The deadline for resumes online is 1 o'clock on Friday, and the trustees will meet in a non-public session at 2 o'clock on Friday to review the resumes and decide who we would like to meet for an interview. Then, starting on Monday, August 21st, the trustees will be meeting several times to interview the applicants. Okay, let's get into old business. The complaint on Richmond Road, it says on here waiting on nuisance ordinance, but we've decided to not wait on that, right?
To move forward.
Okay, so what do we need to do?
Send the letters. Send a letter.
Okay. Alissa, would you just write something up for me? Describe, you've already filled out a complaint form, right?
Correct.
Was it in here?
Mm-hmm.
All right, remind me
Yes.
before I leave for tonight to take it with me.
Okay.
And we'll write that up. Okay, Ridley map, Attorney Hawkins-Smith. Anything new, Barbara?
No.
Okay, we're still waiting on the nuisance ordinance for, just generally.
Correct.
Okay,
It's tabled for now.
okay. Job descriptions. Curtis, anything to add to that?
No, not at this time.
Okay, I'm still waiting to hear from, I just thought of something. Alissa, within the last month or so, I forwarded an email to you about I-9 forms. Do you remember that?
Yes,
Do you still have that email?
somewhere, yes.
Because that came from that woman I'm trying to get a hold of, who I'm still waiting on an email from her. I forgot that I sent that to you. So if you can find that, I'll be able to contact her. If you can find it, just forward it back to me. Okay, forensic audit.
Haven't heard anything.
Okay, it says on here we'll return next week.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was supposed to be
doing
last
a
week.
report.
Okay. All right, second driveway on School Street. That has until August 31st. We have not heard anything from him. Fundraiser, Mark will call Ben to put it together, and we don't know anything further on that.
Mark, that was who called when you guys were
Okay.
at the meeting. He has spoke with Ben. They're starting to get things moving.
Okay, good.
Mike Cummings gave him a paper on how to set it up correctly with the bank as far as money and.
Yeah, I think he gave that to me too.
So they're gonna start working on that.
Okay, good. All right, Troy Redevelopment Group. I don't think we have anything on that. Have you heard anything in the last week, Curtis?
No, nothing yet on that.
Okay. Time Board and Bay.
Oh, we talked about this last week, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could take that off of
Take
here,
that off.
actually.
Okay, knock that right out of the
Yeah,
agenda.
because we're done.
Okay. All right, West Hill Road complaint. Now, Curtis, you're familiar with it. Barbara, you're
Yeah.
familiar with it. And I went up there again today, second time, just to remind myself of it. So let me find it here. I'm going to read a paragraph from the statute. If I can find what I did with it. Here it is, okay. This is in the zoning ordinance, Article 3, Section B. No land shall be used for a private dump for storage of abandoned vehicles or parts thereof, junk, scrap paper, rags, or discarded materials of any kind, nor used in any manner that is disorderly, unsightly, noxious, or detrimental to the public or prejudicial to the general welfare. Commercial junkyards, as defined in Article 20, are subject to the provisions of RSA, etc. That last sentence doesn't really matter. So, Curtis, in your opinion, does that property violate this ordinance?
He didn't look at it.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did?
Yes, because it's, I think it was the second or third sentence where it's unsightly.
Yep. Okay, Barbara?
It breaks all the rules.
Okay. All right, I agree. So I have a letter here. And Alissa, I didn't email it to you because I didn't want anybody to see it until we discussed it, but I left it, I have a copy of it on here so you can keep it in here. Here's what the letter says. And I've got to redo it anyway because I got to plug the number of the house in. So I'll write that on here, and Alissa, you can get this for us tonight, and we'll sign it before we leave. Okay, your property on West Hill Road in Troy is in violation of several sections of the Troy zoning ordinance. Number 1, an excessive amount of trash and or junk has accumulated in your front yard. This violates Article 3, Section B of the zoning ordinance, and then everything I just read about that ordinance is quoted in here. 2, a non-functioning motorhome is set up as an auxiliary housing unit less than 35 feet from the town's right-of-way. This violates the setback requirements of the zoning ordinance. Please bring your property into compliance with the Troy zoning ordinance within 30 days of the date of this letter. If you wish to discuss this with the Selectmen, please call our office at 242-7722 and ask to be placed on the agenda for a Monday evening meeting. Sincerely, and then 3 signatures. Barbara, how does that sound to you?
I think it has to go. It needs to be removed completely. It doesn't work. You can't start it. It has.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When we contact somebody about this, we really can't tell them what to do specifically. All we can tell them is come into compliance.
Correct.
Now you say it can't start and all that. That's not our problem.
Okay.
It's up to him to come into compliance with the ordinance. And that's why it's worded that way. I'm not going to tell him how to fix the problem.
Okay, but we do not want it there either.
Whether we want it there or not is irrelevant. If he can find a way to do it that is in compliance with the zoning ordinance, then he's okay.
But according to the ordinances, it can only be lived in for 180 days.
Okay, but that would be a violation.
Right.
Right. Okay. So we're telling him come into compliance, but we're not telling him how to do it. If you tell somebody how to do it,
And he meets your requirements, he's.
well, no, but the thing is, there are many ways to come into compliance. So if we tell him how to do it, what we're doing is telling him you can't use any of the other ways of coming into compliance. And this is not just for this issue, it's any issue. We should never be telling somebody who is violating an ordinance that they have to do something specific. All we can tell them to do is stop breaking the law, get into compliance.
Okay, stop breaking the law would be good. Can you add that to the letter?
I think that is in there. It says your property is violating the zoning ordinance. Please come into compliance.
Okay.
Correct.
I mean, I don't know what more we can say without overstepping our authority.
Okay.
All right, are you fine? Are you prepared to sign that letter after we fix the
yes.
address?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's a.
All right. Then, Alyssa, let me hand this to you along with the. You got the flash driver in?
Yes,
Oh,
she
okay.
took it.
Did you plug the address in? Okay, good.
We're good to go.
As usual, Alyssa is several steps ahead of me. All right, we'll sign that right now. All right, Curtis, you need to reach out to that phone. I'll hand you a pen. Okay. All right, so that is ready to go.
Yeah, I agree with the letter. So.
Okay, good. John, you both think that's acceptable the way it was written?
Yep.
Good, okay. Central Square complaint, well, he's in his 30-day period now. Amnesty Day deadline, September, no action here. A lot of this stuff is just repeating what we've already done. We've got the Georgiani Trust Fund public hearing coming up on September 28th. Alyssa, have you reserved the community center for us for that
Yes,
day?
I
Good,
have.
thank you. Fitzwilliam Road complaint, have we heard back from the state? Anything going on with that, Barbara?
The John Gilar property, is that the one you're talking
No,
about?
Fitzwilliam Road would be the trailer, the sump pump going into the.
Oh, DES says it.
Okay, but
Well-
they haven't said anything to you.
No, he had to, that was just last week.
Okay.
He had to put it on his schedule. He
Oh,
has-
all right.
And I'm sure he'll let me know
Okay,
when he's
geese.
So, real
Okay.
quick, Alan.
Yep.
That's the one with the restaurant on Route 12, correct?
It's next door. Yeah.
Okay. The woman did come in to the planning board last Wednesday.
The owner.
I don't know if she owned it or if it was her father, but she came in last Wednesday discussing about what she can and can't do with that property, about putting an apartment on there or about changing the lots. And I think I left a note for Alissa.
Okay.
No, she said no.
No. No. When you say, are you talking about the trailer or the restaurant?
She was talking about both lots. There's actually two lots there.
Yeah.
The trailer and the restaurant are on one lot. And then there's another property, I think it's 9 and 10 are the not numbers.
Okay.
She came in and she was discussing, I don't have my notes in front of me of that. I left it
All right.
at home. But she was asking about if she could put an apartment there and a couple other questions.
That has nothing to do with the sewage problem.
I know. I was just saying that she basically just relaying some information back. I thought I left a note for Alissa, but apparently I didn't. It must
No.
be still in my book.
Curtis, I believe that's a buyer that may be buying the property. 'Cause she called here asking me about a bunch of questions.
Okay.
And she is the owner of record, not her husband.
Oh, okay. So, all right, just as FYI, that woman came into the planning board and was asking a bunch of questions.
Okay.
So I guess Alissa told her to show up to the planning board. But the planning board, I think, was pretty much in agreement that we'd have to get some more information
Okay.
of the two properties. But just an FYI.
All right. Appreciate that. All right. Geese waste at Sand Dam. Curtis, do you know if Debbie found any information on that York rake?
Well, we started looking on Craigslist,
Yeah.
and there are a couple, but they're about $400 or $500.
All right.
But they're the 3-point hitch type. They're not the ones with a wheel on
Yeah.
the back that could be moved up and down.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
looks like it's going to be more than the $300.
All right. Let me ask you a question about that. This York rake, that really wouldn't pick up any of the geese waste, would it? It would just kind of bury it?
Well, once it grabs it, it'll end up pulling it and pushing it off to the side. I can keep going back and forth over it.
Yeah.
And it also level the sand out down there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it would also actually mix into the sand. I'm not saying it's not going to, but
Yeah.
a York rake is to, pull the material and rough it up and pull all the bigger stuff off to the side and level.
All right.
I also heard, though, that the tractor has to run over it first before the brake gets to it, or before the rake gets to it. So it's going to be in the tires of the tractor. I
Well,
didn't-
that's all right. That's what tractors are for.
Right.
Yeah, and then we're going to drive the tractor around the yard, and it'll be lost in the yard down at Samuel Paul. I don't know that this is such a good idea. If it was getting all the waste, it might not be a bad idea, but I was told it would work more into the sand. The debris would be in the sand, not to the side. That the debris was too small and the tines would not get it on the rake. So, did anybody check into this to see if this was the way to go, or are you just looking at getting it and moving forward?
That was an option that was brought up for doing it down there, because right now I guess the only way they're doing it is scooping it up with shovels and rakes.
Well, all you're thinking about is buying a bigger rake, right?
Right.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay, on the same topic, but a slightly different issue, we got an email, Alissa contacted the U.S. Department of Agriculture and got a document back. In fact, Alissa, would you email the, not the 1,000-page attachment, but the 3-page basic email to Curtis? There's a lot of good tips in there on what we can do.
Okay.
Including setting up firecrackers to scare them away. Apparently that if you discourage them a few times, they just go find another place to roost.
Right.
So
Until the place gets left alone again long enough, and then they end up coming back. It has
Yeah.
to be a consistent thing.
yeah, we can also hunt them.
We can't.
But Alissa will send you that email from the woman she spoke with at USDA at their
Okay.
Concord office. And there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Okay.
But we're not going to send you the 1,000-page attachment that she sent us, which is everything you always wanted to know about geese, but were afraid to ask.
Right. Well, I think we ought to put the York rake on hold either way.
Okay.
Just because I don't know what our budget looks like, or Jim's budget. I mean, I don't want to get too crazy on it, especially
Okay.
if we have that amnesty day. I think we can hold off on it for this year here,
Okay.
and probably for next year if we need it that bad, after going through this document.
Yeah.
And we'll move forward with that.
Okay. All right. So, Alissa, would you call Debbie tomorrow?
I'll see Debbie in the morning.
Oh, okay, fine. And just tell her that we want to hold off on that until we decide not to hold off on it any longer. Okay, moving on. Additional highway block grant. The money came in Thursday, I believe. And Alyssa's got this look of shock on her face. You didn't know that, did you?
Yeah, well, it was before that, and it got deposited.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought it was something
deposited.
else.
Yeah, it got to, we were supposed to hold on to it, but what happened was the state included the block grant with other money that they were sending us. It's something to do with the bond pay. I don't know exactly why we're getting that money, but so a check for a large amount came in. It explained that it was for the sewer bond, and it was I think $20,000 or something like that. But it included the other 50 or 47. So Ralph deposited it. Janet told me about this on Friday. So I'm not really concerned. We should not have deposited it until after the public hearing. But I'm not really concerned about it because they lumped it all together into a single check. So we'll still proceed forward. Have we scheduled the public hearing?
We need to do it for 7 days, and it has to be in the newspaper.
Let's do the public hearing 2 weeks from tonight because I'd like Curtis to be present when we do it.
Is that the night we do not have a meeting? Yes.
That is, okay.
3 weeks.
All right, well, we're not in a big hurry for this because we're not going to spend the money in a hurry.
No.
This money's not going to get spent till next year.
Right.
And it's not like we have to wait and hold the public hearing before we can deposit the check now that it's been deposited. So let's schedule that for 3 weeks from tonight. That'll be the 28th of August.
28th.
Yep. At 6:15 p.m. I'm sorry, 6:45 p.m.
Yeah.
So that'll be as part of our meeting. This is really a formality, so I don't expect a big crowd to come in just to talk about accepting the block grant. Okay. Any discussion on anything we've covered under old business?
Yeah, I was a little thought, will their time to clean up extend into the amnesty? So if it,
Well, no.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
like across the street
Yes.
or up the hill,
Yes.
we'd have to pay now in order to remove articles, or should we give them a little extra time to the
Well-
amnesty time.
But we haven't decided if we're doing that yet.
Okay.
It will depend on the budget.
Yeah.
The amnesty.
But let's say that we do decide to proceed with Amnesty Day, which would be in early October. If somebody is on a 30-day deadline to clean up their property, and they say to us, can you give me a slight extension here so that I can use Amnesty Day? We would probably give them until that weekend and say, but Monday, we're gonna drive by and it better be clean.
And now, let's say, let's not say it, they hadn't done what they were supposed to do in the past, what will happen to them if they do not clean up this time?
Well, the past really has nothing to do with this. What we're gonna do, when the time is up, and assuming that if there are any extensions, that they have expired, if it's still not cleaned, then we will escalate it. And I don't know yet exactly what that will entail, because the first thing that we would do is, if we know that we need to escalate it, we would contact an attorney and say, what can we do, what should we do? And then we'll follow the advice of counsel. Based on what I've read in the statutes and the zoning ordinance, it's going to involve going to the Superior Court in Keene and getting an injunction. And then a judge will say, now you've got 30 days or 60 days or whatever to clean it up. And if you don't, you're in contempt of court. So when that expires, the judge has a lot more clout than we do. Then the judge can send the sheriffs down to arrange to have it cleaned up. They'll bring in a contractor and they'll slap a lien on the property to pay for it. Whatever happens after that happens.
Okay.
The compliance, Alan, right now, is it on the sheriff's shoulders or,
Right now?
yeah,
No, right now it's on
It's
ours.
okay,
If we escalate it, it would go to county.
okay, so the sheriff would be,
Well, it would go to the court,
right,
and the sheriff's department would take orders from the judge.
right, depending on what.
Yeah, they enforce court orders.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, beyond that, beyond this point, it would be in the hands of
Yeah, that would be out of
other
our hands at
people,
that point.
and we would be completed with the process
Yeah.
at that point.
Well,
Be
but-
litigation. Well,
Well, I think for a temporary period of time, we might be. It wouldn't surprise me if we ended up getting back into it.
yeah.
But we'll
from
see what
that
happens.
time on, it would be
Yeah.
the courts.
Is hiring a code enforcement officer an option?
Oh, we're going to do that, hopefully.
That-
But we have
Well,
to go to town meeting.
We discussed that last week.
Right,
You were here last week, right?
no,
No,
you
he
were not.
was not.
Did you listen to the recording?
no,
Well, shame on you.
I know,
We discussed this at
Busy
length
week.
last week.
yeah,
I threw out an idea which we didn't vote on or discuss, but I want to create a position, not create a position, but take the existing code enforcement officer position, which is part-time, which is funded for $3,600 a year, and convert that into a full-time position with benefits for a building inspector / code enforcement officer who would do all of that stuff. And one of the first things that he would do would make sure that all of our ordinances, building code and all that are ready to go, so that we have something to enforce.
okay,
So when we get into the budgeting process, when we get to the part of the budgeting process where we discuss the selectmen's budget, which would be November 20th, that's when we'll discuss that at length. And is it November 20th? Yeah, November 20th. And then we'll put it in the budget, assuming everybody agrees with it, and I think we will. Then it'll go to the budget committee, and they may agree with us or they may shoot it down. When you go to town meeting, the people vote on the budget committee's recommended budget. So if they have shot that down, we'll stand up and say, we'd like to amend the article to put this money back in the budget. And we'd explain why and let the people decide. And if they want to pay a little bit extra in payroll to fund this position, then when there's a complaint, that person will handle it. If somebody has a building permit application, instead of having to wait 2 weeks while we get it over to the planning board for review, because the select board isn't qualified to do this stuff, they would have somebody right away working full-time out of this office who could process it immediately
yeah,
and could authorize it on our behalf. Then if there's a complaint, instead of going through the process that we're going through now, which is kind of cumbersome, this person could go out and inspect that property immediately. come right back and put the letter together. It would come from the code enforcement officer, clean up your property.
Okay.
But if the town decides they don't want to do that,
Right.
then we probably will, there is a provision in the statute that says that the select board is responsible for doing this. But it also says that if we don't do it, a citizen has the right to go to the Superior Court and seek an injunction against the offending property owner. And that's what it would come to, because next year we're not going to be in this business. We're going to handle the complaints that we've got right now. And anything that happens between now and next town meeting, we may or may not handle. But if there's a building inspector, code enforcement officer on board next spring, that person will take care of all that stuff. If there's not, we'll be happy to give people the address of the Superior Court. Okay, anything else?
No, that's it for me.
All right, let's go on to new business. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Have a good night, guys.
It's Mike.
Okay, review town ordinances. Last week, Tom Matson said that these all need to be looked at and rewritten, and these are right. Not necessarily rewritten, they need to be reviewed to make sure that they are properly written. So what I would like to do is, instead of throwing them all out wholesale or hiring somebody to rewrite them, I'm going to start coming in. I'm going to come in for a couple hours a week on a separate day, and I'll just start at the beginning of the book and I'll go through them. And if we need to amend them, to add the definitions and add the references, we will absolutely do that. And then I'll just bring it to the next meeting after I do that, and we can review it and vote on it, and put it back in the book and repost it online in its corrected form.
There you go.
So,
Well, we also have an app that Carol Ogilvy
yeah,
mentioned,
right.
and she said that I did mention that to her during the planning board,
Yep.
and she says if she shook her head in agreement that if she needed to be used for that.
Yep. Okay.
So,
What I would rather do, and I think this would save time, is I'll go through them first.
okay.
And because there may be some obvious things that even I, with my limited knowledge, can find. And then when we're done, then I'd like to have Carol look at all of them. And if we've already corrected some of the stuff, there'll be less for her to do.
Okay.
Okay, so that sounds okay with you, Curtis?
Yes.
Barbara?
Fine.
Okay, that's the way we'll do it. All right, next item, Grants Administrator or Grants Administration Committee. This is not a paid position that I'd be proposing here. But, in a lot of larger municipalities, you have a grants administrator. Years ago, I knew one in Connecticut, and a friend of mine who retired from the Army became a county grants administrator out in Washington State. And their job is to just go out and find the money. The money's out there. Over at the library, for the last year and a half that Stephanie's been here, she has found a lot of grants for libraries, and she's brought in a lot of donations of books and all that through this grant process. And before her, Catherine was doing that. But we don't do it here. And there are a lot of grants available out there for various aspects of municipal government. And I think what we need to do is to get somebody who's willing to put in some time searching for this stuff. And I was thinking the ideal way to do it would be a 3-person committee. One person to research grants for transportation, one person to research grants for recreation, and one person to research grants for all the other aspects of town government. We apply for the grants. If we won't get them all, but we'll get some of them. What do you think, Curtis?
Sounds like a plan.
Barbara?
I think it's a good idea. It may be difficult to find someone that has the knowledge to apply for the grants, which
You're right.
sometimes is difficult.
Yeah. Initially, the job would be to figure out what you need to know and gather the knowledge.
Right.
And I, right now, if I took over that job, and I'm not saying I would, but if I were going to be a grants administrator, I would just start doing some online research and find out what I could about grants administration and grant applications generally. Because I wouldn't know where to look for a possible grant.
Right, hopefully we could find someone out of the three
Yeah.
that would have knowledge
All right.
and maybe some type of education.
Yeah,
concerning
let's do
this.
this. I still have to write the Selectmen's Corner for the September 1st issue of Troy Town News. For the October issue, we're going to go with the cleanup. So let me write something up on this and just ask for ideas or suggestions from people about how we should do this.
Okay,
Okay, Curtis?
Okay.
Okay, Barbara?
fine.
Okay, all right, so I will go ahead and do that. And I'll email it to you both so you can take a look at it before we put it in. Okay, Troy Mills parking lot. I saw something in the correspondence folder on that.
Was on their rent, I think.
They haven't paid any rent since March. March was when their 6 months was up. I don't
Okay,
know how you want to
did you
handle
contact him?
it. No, I have not, but I do know that he's been trying to get the logs out of there.
Yeah,
So I didn't know how you guys wanted me to handle that.
Yeah, I think he even asked people if they wanted them, they could take them.
well, I think the first thing you should do is get a hold of him. You got a number for him?
I do not.
Okay, you have an address for
Do you
him?
think Marcy might?
She might.
All right, I think we should have probably jumped on this earlier. Would you track him down? Find out what his intentions are.
And tell him to remove his logs.
Yeah.
It's our property.
Is this the logging area?
Correct.
This is the lot across from the mill on Mill Street?
Okay.
Okay, Rails Trails letter. Let me find that in here. Well, let's just go through the correspondence file. There's a couple of other things in here we need to discuss. Okay, we got a letter from Attorney Stephen Bragdon in Keene forwarding to us something about a class action lawsuit, and it was addressed to Troy Attorney's Office, Mr. H. Neil Berkson, Chief Legal Counsel, P.O. Box 465 in Keene. And so they forwarded it to us, and I'm thinking that maybe years ago they may have been the town's attorney, and they received this. If you've ever invested, you've probably gotten these in the mail. It's from the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, that there's a class action lawsuit and we may be part of it. And the only thing I can think of is that possibly the trustees of the trust fund may have invested in this LIBOR. U.S. dollar LIBOR is the name of the company. So, Alissa, would you just give this to the trustees or
They
leave
don't
it?
want to.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Fine, then we don't have to do anything with it. They know about it. Okay, here's the thing on rail trails. And this is from Joe Lakelade, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, town manager of the town of Haverhill. Before I go into this, though, we got a call last week from a reporter at the Keene Sentinel who was doing an article about this, and her information was that the town of Troy was involved in it. It was the first I'd ever heard of it. And there are two towns, Haverhill and Claremont, who are taking the lead on this. And there's a list of all the towns that are involved in it. And there aren't that many, but Troy is one of them. Here it is. Haverhill, Claremont, Littleton, Farmington, Rochester, Hinsdale, Troy, and Whitefield. What they want to do is get the federal government to change the law on rail trails. Apparently, when railroads tore up their tracks and the feds made money available, to set up these trails, there were some strings attached, and one was that you could not use motorized vehicles on the trails. Later, they allowed each individual town to make its own rules about snowmobiles. But off-highway recreational vehicles in the summer are not allowed on any trails that have received federal funds for their maintenance, and that would include the trails as they go through Troy. So what Claremont and Littleton want to do is open up all of the rail trails to off-highway recreational vehicles during the summer months. Well, year-round, actually. And apparently they want us to back them on that. In fact, they've already gone ahead and said that we're on board with it. What do you think, Barb?
What about, isn't there an organization, who was in here, Little Monadnock?
Well, that was a off-highway recreational vehicle organization. Yeah.
Right, but they want us as a select board to back them. Is that
Yeah,
the idea?
this would require federal legislation. So on this email here, they're sending this package, we're just getting a copy of it, but they're sending this to the New Hampshire congressional delegation.
Okay, I don't agree with it. I think it would be more headaches for homeowners
I think it would too.
that need to put up with the noise
Yeah.
and the people.
What's your feeling, Curtis?
Well, I kind of agree with it because if the snowmobiles and the four-wheelers, the OHRVs and the dirt bikes, they're all paying the same registration, but the ones with the wheels are limited on where they could ride.
Well, during the summer months, it's no motorized vehicles of any kind.
Right.
During the winter months, when it's not suitable for walking or bicycling, that's when snowmobiles are allowed.
Right.
And there are plenty of other trails in town where the off-highway recreational vehicles can ride.
Right.
Yeah, but some of those trails you really can't get to unless you ride the rail trail
Yep.
from point A to point B. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
I mean, it's been going on for years, ever since they changed this over.
All right.
I've heard from the four-wheeler clubs, dirt bike clubs, that they're paying the same registration to register their vehicles as the snowmobiles, but they can't go in the same locations that the snowmobiles can.
Okay. What about a motorcycle?
Motorcycles are on roads.
But a motorcycle is paying for registration. Shouldn't they be allowed on the rail trail?
Well, I was talking about the registration for off-highway road recreational vehicles.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the actual fee is for it each year. I think it's a little over $50 now.
Yep.
But the motorcycles are made for driving on the main roads. For off-road highway road vehicles or recreation vehicles, they can only ride up on the road for up to 1 mile, and that's to get to another trail.
All right. Now, during the winter months, when people are riding around on snowmobiles, most windows are closed. People, they might be able to hear it, but it wouldn't be a big disturbance. But what about if you're living along the trail and in the summer months your windows are open or you're sitting outside on your patio and you have to listen to these things riding by?
Well, in the wintertime, there's also no leaves on the trees, so it's going to echo.
Well,
All
right.
I mean, I see it both ways. Like I said, I just know that the four-wheeler clubs and the dirt bike clubs, if it's going to be federal funding is going to be going towards this, it should be open to everyone.
Well, the federal funding already took place.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I mean, we're not going to vote on this because we're not in a position to take a position on it. It's just that we found out that our name was being used in vain. But if it comes down to it, if they contact us and want us to take a position, I think what we should do is have a public hearing on it before we vote on this. But at this point, there's nothing for us to do except, just get it into the minutes that we discussed it.
Right.
Because we got the email.
Yeah, we should definitely have a public hearing if it does go forward, and they need us to take a position
Okay.
to see what the townspeople want.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on. A letter from the Monadnock Region Child Advocacy Center thanking us for their $500 contribution that they received and asking us if we would consider increasing that a little bit in the coming year. A letter from DOT telling us about next year's highway block grant. This is not the additional one that we just received, but this would be for the coming year, for the fiscal year 2018. The amount will be $56,110.51, but it also says that that is subject to change. Okay, some of this we've already looked at. I think that may be it.
Yep.
Oh, we got this. Oh, we got something here from the Census Bureau. They would like us, and this is not a requirement, but they would like us to come up with a list of every address in Troy, so that when they mail out the census forms, one can be mailed to every single residence in town. Now, we have a list of addresses, but that does not break it down by apartments. So if there's an apartment building and it's number 20 XYZ Street, there may be 10 apartments in that building. The Census Bureau needs to know that it's 20 XYZ Street Apartment 1, 20 XYZ Street Apartment 2, and so on, so that each individual apartment gets a form. So they're asking us if we would like to do this. They're certainly not going to pay for it.
And are we going to knock on doors? There are apartments in buildings that aren't supposed to be there.
Well, whatever we do, it's an imperfect world. My gut feeling is it's something we should probably have anyway, but we don't have it. So this might be just the kick in the pants that we need to do this.
We also need a listing for out-of-state landlords. That's
Well,
another thing.
that's something different.
Yeah, it is, but it's something we need to do.
But let me just look at this and see if there's a deadline on it for a response. It doesn't say when they need to know, but this is for the 2020 census, so it's not like it's a short fuse. So we can go back to that at a later time. Okay, I think that covers everything we've got.
He was just here and left, and we took care of that.
Right, this is well, it's in progress. That's the complaint on West Hill Road. I feel like everything in there is
It's
that.
old.
Okay, what about all these building permit things that we have here?
Okay.
Should we go through those?
Did we? Okay.
We got more?
Well, they've all got notes from
No.
you on them. So I don't think these are more.
No.
Okay, there's one here, Daniel Sipek, 1 Monadnock Street. And your note, Curtis, says we'll get back to Selectmen Planning Board for permit for framework. So I guess this is on hold, right?
Well, what he wanted to do, and the planning board didn't really agree with this, but what he wanted to do was get a building permit for the framework, and then once that was done, get it inspected, and then put another permit in for the plumbing and the electrical, so we can get that inspected as well. And normally when we hand out building permits, it's for all in one.
Yes.
So he's supposed to be getting a hold of his contractor that's supposed to be doing this work and getting back to the select board on how he wants to do this.
Okay, I've never heard of doing a building permit in phases like that.
Right. We've never heard it as the planning board as well. And it was actually going to cost him more money.
Yeah.
But that's the way he wanted to do it. But we talked to him and he said he's going to get back to us.
All right. Normally the way it would be, you get one building permit that covers everything, and then, assuming you have a building inspector, they inspect it several times as the construction progresses.
Right.
Sometimes they can do it that way with the bank in conjunction with, and he may have a loan that is telling him, okay, this is the way we're going to do it. The bank does do that at times.
I don't think the bank would tell him to put in multiple building permit requests for each phase.
No, this is for changing the barn into an apartment that he's going to be living in.
Right.
And like I said, he's supposed to be getting back to us before the next planning board meeting.
Okay.
And then we'll bring it back to the planning board.
All right.
But So we got a little time.
Okay, well, we'll put that on hold then. Okay, next one is 207 Richmond Road. Oh, this is the shed that didn't meet setbacks. So we're going to have to contact him and tell him that he's got to move that shed.
Yeah.
You know which one we're talking about?
35 feet,
Yeah.
and he's right on the road, and so yeah, he needs to move that to meet the setback.
Okay, so we'll prepare a letter for that and take care of that. Okay, next one. Permit to locate advertising sign. This is the one for Joe Sobolewski down at Troy Power Equipment.
Oh, yep.
I'm trying to read your handwriting here, Curtis.
That's the 15 feet. He needs to be 15 feet away from Route 12.
Yep.
And 15 feet from that side road. I apologize. I don't remember what the name of the road is.
Wickham.
Whitcomb Road.
Wickham Road, okay.
All right.
Because our ordinances said that for directional signs, they need to meet these setbacks. So it needs to be 15 feet off of Route 12 and then 15 feet off of Wickham Road.
But if it's a directional sign, is it for people coming up Route 12? Is that
No,
the
well,
idea?
sort of. It says deliveries out back second gate.
Yes, to redirect the trucks or
So
deliver.
the trucks will go directly instead of having to turn around.
Right.
Okay, will they, with that
With these setbacks, will that work?
They could, but the planning board said the main one, that if, as long as he could, they said that as long as it can get off of Route 12 was the main one,
Yep.
but the way it was worded in our ordinance for signs,
Yeah.
it has to be 15 feet off of all roads.
Okay.
So,
Well, how's that gonna help?
Well, he could contact the Board of Adjustment.
right,
And,
and get a waiver
And-
but if he did do that, the main one is basically off the 15 feet off the Route 12.
okay.
That was the one that they were more concerned of, but.
All right,
like I
let's
said,
do
our
this.
ordinance says that.
All right, let's do this. We'll I think what we should do is go ahead and approve this, but we'll include with it a note reminding him that the sign has to be 15 feet from either road. If he contacts us and says, wait a minute, that's not going to work on Whitcomb, then we'll advise him to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Fine.
But our initial position should be, yes, subject to setbacks. Okay?
Yes,
Okay,
All right, that's what we'll do. And that
That's it.
covers all of that. Okay. We don't have any guests, so there's no public comments. We did the announcements up front. Well, that's adjournment. I'm having trouble reading this thing in this dim light here. Barbara, do you have anything else for us tonight?
no, I'm good.
Curtis, anything else?
Oh,
Oh, wait a minute, hang on.
sorry, the door codes were all taken care of.
Door codes are all taken care of, okay.
Right, he cleared it, we now have a second additional layer of security besides the codes in the door. So for the time being, I haven't talked to David today, I'll probably talk to him tomorrow. We are good.
Okay.
did Henry Underwood contact Alissa about his code?
Not yet.
All right, because can you please give him a call and, I told him to get a hold of you, and I told him I'd bring it up to you this next meeting anyway, so.
I will call him tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else, Barb?
No, that's it.
Okay,
Good.
Curtis, anything else?
That is all I have.
Okay. Enjoy your stay at beautiful Fort Dix.
I will try anyway.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 7:19 p.m.